Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We have weekly podcasts every Tuesday, so I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to learn and to understand maybe just what those trillions of cells in your body do for you each and every day. So today we're going to talk about gluten pain and how it is really your best teacher. And I've met hundreds of people who are on gluten-free diets, and my daughter used to be one of them, my daughter Macy. And gluten pain can make your life so difficult and become a very heavy load to bear. But how can this grain that has been around since time began suddenly wreak such havoc on so many people? And it's definitely causing a lot of problems. It's constantly in the news, gluten-free diets, gluten-free recipes. But I was never one to just do something without understanding the reasoning behind it. I wanted to know for myself and not just take someone's word for why my daughter had developed gluten allergies. And not only gluten allergies, but irritable bowel syndrome. She couldn't eat any wheat. She couldn't eat a bunch of different foods. She'd become allergic to them. And every week, it just grew and grew of the things that she couldn't eat. So I became a woman on a mission to understand what was going on. And this was back in, I think it was 2002 or 2003 that this all happened. And it was really concerning to me because she'd never had problems before. And one of the things that I always didn't understand about modern medicine is that they really just slap a Band-Aid on problems such as food allergies, blood pressure, cholesterol, and a host of other problems. They just give you medications or they, tell you to remove certain foods from your diet. But my question was, why did people have food allergies? And why do people have high blood pressure? And why do suddenly people can't digest wheat when they could digest it before? What causes the body to develop these symptoms? And this is just part of how our bodies work. They call out to us with problems to get our attention, and they are our best teachers. And when we start having trouble and there's things that go awry in our bodies, suddenly we develop gluten allergies or allergies to other foods, then there's much to learn. And the only way to learn is to go within and become attentive to sometimes the things that we take for granted, the inner world of our body, and the millions of processes that go on each and every day that keep you healthy. And I will share with you what I've learned, but this is my journey of understanding. Yours may be different, but maybe I can shed some light on some things that will help you. So when my daughter was 16, and now she's in her 30s, she would get up every morning and she'd climb out of bed and she'd drag herself to the kitchen. And every morning I would pray that she would feel better. And her words were always the same when she got out of bed. I never feel good, Mom. My stomach always hurts. And it really broke me because she was only 16 at the time and she hated getting up every day to a life filled with pain. And I hated watching this. And I took her to doctors. I took her to all kinds of different people. And the doctor wanted to remove her gallbladder because he thought maybe that would help. But I'm like, that's like surgery. I'm not just doing that because you don't even know what's wrong with her. And he basically told me it was just a guess. And so on my mission, I took her to an acupuncturist one day. And that was really my first lesson in the body's ability to talk to you. And this Chinese acupuncturist was so kind and so good to Macy. And he said to her, Macy, you have too much worry and your body is hurting because of this. And I remember hearing those words come out of his mouth. And I fought back the tears because it was true. He pointed to her head and said, so much worry, making your body sick. And I remember thinking that is 100% true for her. And we came home that afternoon after seeing him. And Macy broke up with her boyfriend. I'll never forget that. And then that journey really began because she was really struggling with the guy that she'd been dating. And that was one of the first steps into relieving some of the stress in her life. So I started researching the foods that hurt her gut and eliminated them from her diet. But that was really only a temporary fix. The underlying problem was still there, and she kept getting allergic to different foods. And I really wanted to understand what was happening. So here is what I found. The reason that she was having so much trouble digesting grains was really a threefold problem. First, her gut lining was severely damaged. Years of antibiotics had stripped her of all her good bacteria, and she took a lot of antibiotics because she always had sinus infections. Stress that she was having and certain foods that she was eating lacked the nutrients that she needed and were destroying her gut lining. And the lack of proper bacteria to turn her food into vitamins and fatty acids was changing things in her gut. And there was nothing to protect her gut lining because she wasn't having the right nutrients in the foods that she needed to protect it. She had been doing an extremely low-carb diet for several years, and she wasn't eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. Her microbes were in dire need of fiber in the form of prebiotic carbohydrates such as fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains that make you thrive and grow. And she hadn't been eating those. She was eating under 30 carbs a day, and she wasn't using a lot of vegetables at that time either. It was mostly meats and fats. And so she was essentially starving her microbes and was taking antibiotics on top of that. So your microbes grow from the fiber that you eat in those fruits and vegetables. And that's why they're so good for you. But when you don't have any food for your microbes, this causes the pH in your gut to shift. And the shift can cause the growth of less healthy negative endotoxin producing bacteria, such as Bacteroides, and reduces the growth of positive bacteria that are more healthy for your gut. Now, Jeff Leach from the American Gut Project, and that's a really cool thing if you haven't heard of him. He does a lot of research into the microbiome, and you can check out his website on the American Gut. It's pretty interesting, his articles that he writes. But he states, as pH shifts in the gut, prospects for opportunistic pathogens increase, as do opportunities for gram-negative bacteria that can grow and multiply and overtake the good bacteria. This kind of shift in your bacteria and your gut bacteria can lead to associations with inflammatory bowel disease, autoimmune diseases, metabolic disorders, and so on, because you've shifted the pH in your gut. And that made a lot of sense to me. And it was really essentially the perfect storm for Macy. She was a perfectly normal teenager with no food allergies, and suddenly she developed all kinds of symptoms and had food allergies she'd never had before. Antibiotics had stripped her of all of her good bacteria and left her defenseless. And that, along with starving her microbiome because she wasn't eating enough fiber to feed her microbes, changed that world inside of her. It caused her a lot of pain and symptoms that really changed the course of her life. And we found that just eliminating the offending foods, taking out the food she was allergic to, would eliminate the pain to a degree, but that it didn't really fix her microbes in her gut. And we had to reestablish a new inner microbiome to help her thrive again. Recently, researchers at New York University Medical Center made some exciting discoveries about food allergies and intestinal bacteria. Not only did they discover why children developed food allergies, but they also found a way to solve it. The study, which was published in the Proceeding of National Academy of Sciences, found that young children who were given too many antibiotics early on were at a greater risk of developing food allergies. And the researchers identified naturally occurring bacteria in the human gut that keeps people from developing food allergies. If these bacteria were killed by antibiotics early in life, children became more susceptible to food allergies later on in their life. So the scientists tested this theory by feeding antibiotics to young mice and found they were more likely to develop a peanut sensitivity than the control group. When the young mice were given the good bacteria Clostridia, it's a very diverse group of bacteria. It has like 100 different species in it. Like magic, their allergic reactions vanished. And many more studies were able to confirm the same thing that they had found. And it's just going. I'm seeing it popping up everywhere that food allergies are often caused because people are missing the bacteria they need to digest the foods that they're eating. And for years, I didn't know why Macy began to heal when she started having cultured foods at every meal. I knew that it was working so well that my friends noticed, and then they tried it on their kids, and their kids healed too. Fast forward, maybe 10, 15 years later, science caught up and explained to me what was happening and what was in the magic of these cultured foods. Because if she had a cultured food at every meal, she didn't have the stomach pain, she was able to digest her food, and she got better. And, she had, here's what we did. Macy had a cultured food at every meal. She had kefir for breakfast and a couple tablespoons of cultured vegetables at lunch and dinner. And then she either had kombucha with lunch and dinner, or coconut kefir, which is coconut water kefir. And she had a lot of bone broths, soups. That was very healing. The collagen in those was very healing to her gut. And she had a lot of soups. And it began to heal her digestive tract. And it soothed her gut in a very powerful way. She also made a tea that was it was very similar to Kino, I think is what they call it. And if you go to this article, I'm going to post the description link below. I'll give you a little links for this. But there was this drink called Faux Joe's that was made. It was a tea. It was kind of a faux coffee drink. And we didn't realize at the time, but in that drink, that she had at least once or twice a day, it had a lot of prebiotics in it, which was food for bacteria. And it was feeding the good bacteria in her gut. And she just liked it because coffee upset her stomach, but she could drink this tea. So the combination of cultured foods consumed with every meal, along with this prebiotic drink, made her gut heal, and her food allergies became a thing of the past. And this particular tea that she drank, called Faux Joe's, had a blend of prebiotics in it. It was barley, dandelion root, and chicory root. And it had a touch of coconut and cinnamon and carob in it. It was really delicious. But dandelion root and chicory root and barley are huge prebiotics that help your flora grow, flourish, and heal. They're some of the biggest there are to feed your microbiome. And all of these foods that she ate, the probiotics and the prebiotics, started to heal her gut. And each one played a different role in her healing. But it was interesting to me that we didn't know that the tea was helping her. She just liked it. And so flash forward many years later, I found out that it was actually a prebiotic. So as she got better, I discovered why she was having so much trouble with grains. Grains are not the same as they used to be. For hundreds of years, they would cut the sheaves of grains and stack them in the fields, leaving them to be gathered the next day. The dew would make the grains sprout, and the sprouting would unlock the nutrients. And as well as that, it would deactivate the phytic acid and enzyme inhibitors that were in the grains. And then the workers would gather the grains and take the seeds off the stalk to be used. Today, we have combine machines that take the seeds off instantly, never allowing the grains to sprout, so that they deactivate all those things that inhibit you from getting the vitamins and minerals in the grain. If they're not sprouted, or if you don't use a culture to make your bread, you can't unlock the zinc and the magnesium and the B vitamins that are naturally occurring in the grain. For years, and today in European countries and here in our country as well, we're starting to get back to sourdough starters to rise our bread. Sourdough transforms the bread in so many ways, as sprouting does. It puts lactobacillus into the bread and the bread rises, but it takes a while. It takes 7 to 24 hours to transform the bread through bacteria. And these wonderful bacteria not only change the bread into a healthy food, but they change the way that our bodies digest them. And now we have instant yeast, and the breads never have a chance to transform. We don't soak the grains and make sprouted grains. I mean, you can buy sprouted grains at the grocery stores now, which is exciting to me. And you can use cultures to change it. But for the most part, most of our bread is made without that. So we're not getting the B vitamins. We're not getting the zinc. We're having a hard time digesting them because they aren't made the way they used to be made. And instant yeast can be really hard on your gut if you're already struggling. And couple this with all, the way they spray our wheats with the pesticides and chemicals, and you have a recipe for disaster. Grains take a huge amount of B vitamins to digest. And when you're under a lot of stress and you don't have what you need, you're going to stress out your gut. Sprouting or using a sourdough culture changes the grain and activates all the B vitamins that are locked in there, giving you a chance to digest them. And grains are prebiotics too, but often you need to take care on how to handle your grains. And sometimes you can't add grains right back in your diet when you're trying to heal. Macy added sprouted and sourdough grains, and she did okay. She did really well on those, actually, and they didn't hurt her gut. And while she was healing, she seemed to thrive on them. But if they weren't sprouted, or if it was not made with a sourdough culture, then she couldn't handle the grain at all. It just made her have gut pain and she'd have symptoms, and it was really, really hard on her. Both of these two things, sprouting the wheat, using sprouted flours, or using a sourdough culture, do the same thing. I mostly, I make sourdough bread once a week. That's usually what I do for my family. I love the process. I love what it does. I love the way it tastes. I love the way it looks. But I also have made a lot of sprouted breads too. But if I had a preference, I would do the sourdough over the sprouting. So here is the formula that we used. You have to remove or deal with the stress. There's somewhere in your life that you're getting into a lot of stress, or you wouldn't be having a lot of these problems. Because stress sends off chemicals throughout your body that creates inflammation, that creates disease. And so you need to learn to deal with that as well. And then you need to heal the gut with fermented foods and prebiotic foods. Those are just as important. And the thing that I've seen that has worked the best is having a cultured food at every meal. And that's what Macy did. She had a cultured food at every meal, and she actually really enjoyed it too. For breakfast, she made a smoothie, or I have a bunch of recipes I have on this article. I'll put the link in the description below if you're on YouTube or on other places. You can go to my website and see this podcast as well. And I'll have a link in the description if you want to read it and see the recipes, some of the recipes we used. And I have 4 breakfast ones that we used. And then she also had a spoonful of cultured veggies with lunch and dinner. It's incredible what happens when you have cultured foods with your meals, because it helps you digest the foods that normally you wouldn't digest. And it helps unlock nutrients in the other foods that you eat with the cultured foods to give you more nutrients from your food. It's an amazing thing to do when you're struggling. And so she had a spoonful of cultured veggies with lunch and dinner, sometimes more. It really helped her a lot. If she just a spoonful was huge for her. And I have a recipe for one of the ones we used in the description on the article below. And then kombucha, she really loved kombucha, and she always seemed to have plain kombucha, because back then we didn't know how to second ferment your kombucha. And she had about 6 to 8 ounces with lunch and dinner. She really looked forward to that. Or she had coconut water kefir. That was another one that really helped her a lot. Both of those were, probiotic drinks that really helped her digest her food and heal her gut. And then the last thing that she did was prebiotics. And they're so important, guys. Everybody knows that you're supposed to eat more fruits and vegetables. Everybody. That's just a no-brainer. Everybody knows that. Not everybody does it. You get addicted to the other foods, and then you don't want to eat the fruits and vegetables because your microbiome shifts, and then you crave the foods that aren't good for you. But when you start to eat more fruits and vegetables, you start to crave them. It's a pretty amazing thing how that works. And they feed your microbiome. And, we all know that they're good for us, but I really think the reason they're good for us is because they change our microbes and they feed them. Because there's fibers in them that we can't digest, and they don't have, some of the fibers don't have any calories, but our microbes eat them. And then they create more microbes, and it allows us to be healthy and flourish. I really encourage you to look at some of these probiotic teas or supplements. I have a product called Prebio Plus that I absolutely love. I put it in my coffee every morning. I put it in our salad dressings. I sprinkle it on my kefir. I feed my kefir this Prebio Plus, and it's basically what's in like the teas that Macy drank. She had, that has chicory root in it. It's inulin, but it's just a little scoop. And I swear, you guys, when I put that, I have it every day because it makes me not hungry. I get more nutrients from my food. It fills me up. It shifts the way that my taste buds work. I feel more nourished. I feel more healthy. I love that stuff. And it was funny. I had some kefir grains. I had too many this summer, so I froze some of them, which I don't recommend you doing more than once or twice a year because they don't like to be frozen over and over again. But if you have too many, I froze some, and then I took them out of the freezer 2 days ago, and I put them in fresh milk. I strained them. I thawed the milk that they were in and strained them and put them in fresh milk, and then gave them some Prebio Plus, which they absolutely love. And it took a little bit longer than 24 hours to make kefir because I had given them so much food with the prebio. But in a day and a half, the first time out, it was creamy. It was delicious. They woke up. You could tell by the way, I could tell by the way it tasted, the way it looked, that my kefir grains were back online. It was awesome. I have so many kefir grains. It's ridiculous. But I was just thawing some of them, and I had the date on when I did it, and they woke up and got fed, and they are happy campers and making delicious, creamy kefir right now. So if you have trouble with your kefir, I highly recommend Prebio Plus. It is food for those microbes. They love it. It helps make your kefir creamy and delicious tasting, and you can get that on my website. I think Amazon sells it too. And it's a great product, and it is loaded with food for your microbes. Be a little careful when you start out, because what happens is when you first start taking that, your microbes are like, woohoo, we have a lot of food, so we're going to kill the pathogens and the ones that we don't like, because now they have numbers. They have a lot more good bacteria, so they go after the bad guys, and they like to exit the body with a little bit of a ruckus. So go slowly. It has a little scoop in there. Just use a tiny bit, maybe a fourth of that little scoop at the beginning. See how you do. And then you can add more later. But I usually use about 2 scoops a day. I put it in something that I'm eating, and it makes a huge difference for me. I'll tell you, it's really something when you feed your microbes. They let you know that what's going on inside. And I kind of enjoy watching my body respond to the things that I feed it, especially my microbes. And I can tell by what's going on. You may get a little gas and bloating in the beginning, because it kind of like starts a little war inside your gut. But eventually that diminishes, and your body thrives. It's awesome. So these are some of the things that we did. My daughter can eat anything now. She's not allergic to anything anymore. It took about a year, and she became free from all of her food allergies. And I've seen this so many times with people who follow this formula. It's important on the other foods you eat. You need to have a pretty clean diet too. You need to be a little strict for a while when you're under stress and your gut's not working. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables, have some protein, fats, whatever works best for you, but make sure you're not eating junk food or processed food, because that feeds the wrong kind of pathogenic microbes. But, it was a huge lesson for me, and I didn't have the science back then to understand what was happening. I just knew that it worked. And I would tell my friends, and I would watch it work for them. And my daughter loves life. She's not afraid of food now, where she was always so scared. But your body is your best teacher. And are you listening to it? If it's giving you warning signs, symptoms of disease, it's a warning sign to let you know that something's out of whack and it needs your help to get back on track. So I hope this has helped you. I hope that it encourages you to, your body responds really fast to food. And it responds really fast to good, healthy foods, prebiotics, probiotic foods, and it'll make you a believer. You don't have to believe me. Listen to your body, and it will teach you. So if you're in pain and you're struggling with allergies, gluten allergies, or other food allergies, be encouraged. Your body knows how to heal you. It was designed to do that. You just got to feed it what it needs, and it'll come back, and it'll be a huge journey for you, but it will be so worth it. It will really make you a believer that your body is here to serve you. So have a great week, guys, and we will see you next Tuesday. And hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube or on Spotify, Google, whichever app you're on, and you'll get those every week. Thank you, guys, and I appreciate you listening. Have a good one.